Okay, so this question is immunotherapy injection sequencing. So a student asked us about this scenario. Actually, I don't know if it was a student or it actually might just be someone on our discussion board who needed some coding help. And they said a patient comes in for immunotherapy injection. So basically it's allergy shots. And the code when they're giving multiple shots is 95117, and they have a diagnosis of 477.8 and has an allergic reaction, which is a code 995. And the physician is called in because they have a reaction. Normally they come in for allergy shots and they're just they're fine, but they come to the office in case they're going to have a reaction. Well, in this case, the patient did. So they had to call the physician in, and therefore an E&M service was provided. So her question is, would the order be the E&M first with the principal diagnosis 995.0, or the reason for the encounter, which was the injection, with the code 95117? So let's see how I work this one up. And by the way, we do this what we call answer sheets so that we can give you a lot of information and screenshots and graphics and things like that. And then this is what you get as a Replay Club member. It's $19.95 a month. You get access to all of these Q&A webinars that have been recorded for the past couple of years and saved in the Replay Club area. So you get all these answer sheets. Okay, on the live webinar, which is free, you get to see them. We give you, as many links to like websites and stuff as we can. But if you want the full package, then you want to be a Replay Clubber. Okay, so this scenario, I just repeat at the top of the answer sheet. So here's the answer. My first thing was a diagnosis tip. The questioner said, would the order be the E&M first with the principal diagnosis? So I just use this as a teachable moment that when we're in the physician or outpatient world, we should refer to the first diagnosis as first listed. Okay? In inpatient world, they call it principal. The bottom line is just like which one goes first is really what we're saying. But principal has a very special meaning for inpatient coding. Won't go into it now, but just be aware of that little nuance of difference there. So the general rule of thumb is it's always best to sequence your CPT codes by the highest valued one first. That would be using the RVU scale. Most of your encoders or tools that you input codes to will sequence it for you, but it's good to understand how and why they're doing it. Every CPT code has a value. They factor in the risk involved for the procedure, how much skill is required for the procedure, how much equipment or overhead is needed to do the procedure. So they have these committees and they all compare every procedure to other ones to come up with a relative value for that procedure. It mostly matters when you have multiple surgeries because there's going to be reduction on subsequent surgeries. The first one, they'll pay at 100% of the fee schedule, but the subsequent ones get paid at 50%. So of course you want the highest paying one to be listed first. In this case, when you have an E&M with another procedure, it doesn't matter as much unless you've gotten some directive from the payer. But in my experience, with E&M and other codes, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that you need to make sure if the procedure, in this case it was the 95117, the shots, the allergy shots, if you reported an E&M with that, the payer is going to think that you're reporting the mini E&M that's built into this code and you're double dipping, and they'll deny it. So you have to put modifier 25 on, and modifier 25 means significant and separate E&M. In this case, because the physician had to be called in because the patient was having a reaction, that was a significant and separate evaluation and management that he or she had to provide in addition to the shots. So the next step would be to link the CPT code with the diagnosis that supports it. Okay, and I was playing around. We love Find a Code, and they've, in my world as an instructor and a consultant, I don't do a whole lot of heads down coding or billing. So it's kind of fun once in a while to play with these tools that for you folks out there in the real world of coding, probably would get to use on a day-to-day basis. But they have this thing called a claim scrubber. Find a Code is normally used as an electronic CPT book, an ICD book, but it's got a lot more features. So this is one. I put the screenshot here, but let me build it while you watch. No. Okay. So what this is, you're basically taking a claim that you know, if you had a real patient come to the office. So I recommend doing this to see if you've got any problems with the claim. Linkages, is it, you know, is the diagnosis not supporting the procedure? So you come here, you enter your zip code, because there's going to be differences based on your zip code. If you have a special claim ID, you can put that in. I'll just put 003. And this is where you put your diagnoses codes. So in our example, we had mentioned, what are our two codes here? 447.8, which is the allergic rhinitis, and the 995.0. The questioner actually gave me 0.49, but it didn't come up as a valid code, so I used 0.0 for illustration purposes. The date, patient's gender, we'll make a male. Pick a date. Okay, so these are our two diagnoses, and now we're going to come down on a universal 1500 form. You're going to have 6 lines for procedures. So that's what they mean by line 1. So we're going to put in our first procedure, which was the 95117. Those were the 2 shots. And this is where you go, do I need a modifier? No. What diagnosis of the 2 I put above supports this? Well, that was the allergic rhinitis. So I'm going to pick that. I'm going to add a new line because I have 2 procedures of the E&M and the shots. And I'm going to come in here. Oh, by the way, we got to pick place of service, so we're going to do this in the office. And procedure code for this, I just picked a E&M code 99214. Now, this is where I'm advising you to put modifier 25 on to tell the story that this E&M is significant and separate from the 2 shots. And what diagnosis do we want to go with this one? It's going to be the reaction that happened. Now, in some cases, you could have both diagnosis codes support each procedure, but in this case, that isn't the story that we're trying to tell. And then we come down here, and it's called scrub the claim. And now I can see here there's no known issues detected at the claim level. Line 1, the procedure 95117 with the diagnosis 447.8. There's no issues. It's valid medical necessity. So it's kind of a cool little tool to, you know, scrub your claims. And after you, the units. No.
Should the notes?
Oh,
should the units have been?
I thought
changed
you were
to 2?
like getting. You were asking the question.
There was a question there because you've got.
No, because there was only one unit of 95117,
there was a question,
and I'm actually going to be answering another question regarding allergy shots, but that just happens to be one where the CPT description says 2 or more shots, so that's why you only need 1 unit. 95115 is when you only give them 1 shot. Good question. And of course, there was only 1 E&M visit done, so you only have a unit of 1. I was going to say, Boyd, you've been hanging around with us so much, so you're asking questions about coding. So, okay, so that is, let me see if I had anything else down here. No, that's it. So hopefully that helps with that question and kind of gives you a little peek at a Find a Code feature.
Do you need more medical certification training? Go to www.cco.us. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for updates.